How's it going, everybody? This is Eat My Egg Roll back with another video on Guild Wars, but this time I'm going to be talking about skills and abilities for the Necromancer that I think will be good in PvP, in a PvP situation. Now, we all know that in every game there are abilities that are good for PvE, and then there's abilities that are good for PvP. In this video, I'll be explaining and going in depth on the skills and abilities that I think will be good in PvP. So we all know that you can switch between your main weapon set and your off weapon set. So I'm not going to go too in depth with those skills because you should already experiment with them. But what I wanted to go over real quick is your Reaper's Mark. What this does is it applies a circle on the ground that fears anybody that walks through it. So hypothetically speaking, you can fear like 4 people that walk through, but also you can only fear 1 if 1 were to walk through. It depends on how many people walk through and where you put it. Has a 40-second cooldown and a 1 1/4 second fear. Fears them for 1 1/4 seconds. Has very good range, very far range. You also have another fear within your Death Shroud. That fear, I believe, is 20 seconds long, and it also fears you for the same duration. Now on to the healing spells. I use Prayer to Duena. This is just a basic power heal, I should say. It just heals you, and that's about it. But also you have your Consume Conditions and Well of Blood, and also your Blood Fiend. I'm not too fond of Blood Fiend because they're super squishy, and I just don't really like using them. But Consume Conditions can be very useful in a PvP situation, because if you were going up against somebody with a lot of conditions, for example, Necromancers or Warriors, then their main focus is to stack conditions on you. And if you were to use this, then you can consume the conditions and also granting you health back. It can be very, very good in different situations. It depends on who you're going up against. For your utilities, you have Epidemic. What this does is it applies vulnerability on yourself, and then it transfers conditions from one target to another. So it can be a great way to stack more conditions. You also have Corrupt Boon, and what this does is it, if you were to go against, let's say, a Guardian, for example, they use a lot of boons, and boons in this games are buffs. Class uses a lot of buffs, then you can transform those buffs into conditions. And like I said, Necromancers are, they're all based on conditions, so stacking more conditions is great. You have a lot of skills that transfers conditions from yourself to the enemy, to your foe, or you can transfer your allies' conditions into you and then transfer your conditions off of someone else, which is amazing. This skill, Blood is Power, it bleeds yourself but it also bleeds your target and gain life force. As you can see, you do decent amount of damage, very long range, gives you 2 stacks of bleeding, but it also gives your opponent 2 stacks of bleeding, but then it brings your health back. So yeah, pretty decent skill all around. You have Prayer to Cormier, removes 3 conditions from you, kind of self-explanatory. If you were to imagine this in a PvP situation, if you're getting overwhelmed by conditions, you can use this to remove from yourself. We have now the Spectral Grasp. Pull your foe to you and chill them. This skill, if you were to see a melee Necromancer, it can be very good, but I wouldn't recommend using it because I am more of the range Necromancer, and I like to stand back and do my damage, and this skill kind of defeats the purpose of that, so I'm not gonna be using that. We now have Spectral Wall. Create a Spectral Wall that protects allies and makes foes vulnerable. It gives you protection and then puts vulnerability on your opponent. I haven't unlocked it yet, but what I can see, it's sort of similar to if you were to play League of Legends, kind of like Anivia's wall. That's what I would imagine it be like. Now we have the spectral walk. Now this skill, I also haven't unlocked it yet, but from just reading it, I can see that it can be very beneficial to step into the shadows and walk with a trail behind you. When spectral walk ends, you return to where you cast it. So, for example, if you were to being chased by let's say a warrior or someone, and they're doing heavy damage on you, and you use spectral walk, and you're running away, you're fleeing away, and at the end of the ability, you teleport back to the initial start point of where you use that skill. So it's a great escape move. Very good escape move. So another skill that I think is worth mentioning is Plague Signet. Now there's the passive, there's an active side to this ability. The passive, it transfers conditions from nearby allies to yourself, and the active is it sends your conditions to a foe. So what this does is it takes your allies' conditions, and then if you were to use it, it sends your conditions to a foe. And it also breaks stun, which is kind of crazy. Has a 48-second cooldown and a range of 1200, so it has pretty decent range. Good cooldown. Now, for defensive abilities, you have your spectral armor. What this does is it gains life force as you take damage. Remove when you enter Death Shroud also applies protection. So if you're taking heavy damage from someone, you were to use this, and it gives you health back, but in return it also puts protection on you, which is minus 33% incoming damage. And it also breaks stun, but it also has a 90-second cooldown, which is very long. So very situational. Use it when you have to, kind of like if you play World of Warcraft, like the Priestess Bubble, sort of something similar to that. Another move that I like is your Flesh Worm. If you haven't really used it, let me demonstrate real quick. So if you were to cast it anywhere, let's put it right here, and you were to sacrifice your worm, then you will instantly teleport to the location that you put your worm. Now, just from doing that, you can imagine how good that can be in PvP. If you were being attacked by someone and they're doing heavy damage, you can use that worm and put it somewhere far away and then sacrifice your worm to teleport it to it. It's a great escape, and it also does damage. Yeah, if you were to sacrifice your worm and someone's nearby, it also poisoned them. So it's very good escape, moderate amount of damage, but mainly for that escape. The escape is powerful. Signal of Spite is something that is just plain amazing. The passive, it improves power. Nothing wrong with that. The active, it inflicts bleeding, blindness, cripple, poison, and vulnerability on your foe. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 conditions on your opponent in one skill. It has a range of 1200 and a cooldown of 72. And that's with the trait that lowers cooldown. Very good. Like I said, conditions is what we rely on, so always good. Yeah, and then on to elite skills. Right now I have Reaper of Grinth and Flesh Golem and Plague. Those are the ones I have unlocked. But by far the one that's my favorite is Plague. What this does is it transforms into this little shadow thing. And nearby enemies within the radius will then be inflicted with bleed, blindness, and cripple, and weakness. You also have skills that you can use within your form. It increases your health. Very situational, very good. Does very good amount of damage. But the downside is that it's 180 seconds cooldown, which is quite long. But it lasts for 20 seconds, so in return that's very good. But yeah, just by reading these skills, I can imagine that the Necromancer would be very difficult to be in a PvP situation, because all of the debuffs that we have, all the transfer conditions, and all the turn your enemies buffs into debuffs and escapes and heals and all that. I think the Necromancers will be a fairly powerful class in PvP. I haven't PvP yet, so I can't tell you. I'm going to wait till 8 before I do any of that. But from what I can just read and experience, I can tell you that it's going to be quite a bit of fun, and I cannot wait. But as always, if this video helped you in any way, please give it a thumbs up. And remember to subscribe. I will be doing many more videos as soon as I hit 80. I'm going to be posting a lot of PvP videos. Quite excited. So if you are a Necromancer in the making, or plan on rolling a Necromancer, then subscribe and we'll take over. That's it. I'll see you guys later.